Hi everyone, this is Elias Martin of Collecting Japanese Prints. Welcome to another installment of Woodblock Wednesday, where every Wednesday we get together and discuss Japanese prints, paintings, history, and culture. Today I want to continue our conversation of florals or still lifes. We considered two prints by Tomoe Nagaki last week, and I thought they were really neat prints to share with all of you, some very rare designs. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do something in the same vein. And I pulled out some prints from storage, actually. These are prints that belong to me. And this is actually one of the reasons why I'm running a little late with my video. I had to go pick these prints up, and so now I have them here and I can discuss them with you. I pulled three prints by Jun'ichiro Sekino. And Sekino is a Sosaku Hanga artist. He started working as an artist, as a print artist, about 1940. But didn't really work as a professional print artist until after the war. And so the prints I'm going to show you are some early experimental works that show the diversity in his artistic ability. So without further ado, let's go to my coffee table to look at the prints. All right, so I've moved locations. I'm usually in the other room with my very large dining room table, but there's a lot of artwork there. I just received a big shipment from Japan, and so I had to move locations. So now I'm in my living room, and I have the prints on my coffee table. Now this coffee table is not that large, so we'll all have to be able to split all three prints up, and we'll discuss them individually. So this print is by Sekino, Jun'ichiro Sekino. It's an etching. It's an etching in aqua tint on a very thick, almost Western paper. This was done after the war, I would say about 1950. And Sekino was one of the only artists in Tokyo that actually owned an etching press. And so other artists such as Oda Kazuma and what was his name? I think it's Takeo Takai. He produced some etching designs, but actually Sekino printed them. It was just that because he had the etching press. So anyway, I just wanted to show this really wonderful floral. I'll zoom in, you could see what he's able to achieve. The wonderful variations in light on this print. It's just fantastic. And this design is known in this early impression without a signature, and then he made an edition of 10 for an exhibition, and that is it. It's a very rare print. And the design or the impression that's most sought after is the one with his signature and the one that's numbered. But this is the one that I have handy to show you today. And, again, zooming in, you could see how wonderful the sense of light and shadow is in this really wonderfully intricate pattern in the background. And so we have these two flowers in a vase, and the vase is decorated with these deer, and the way that the vase is rendered, it's actually in angles, and you could see the various angles reflecting the light that's filtering in through the window. And there is, I believe that in the background, it's a window with lace. And so the light is coming through the lace and then creating this rippling effect throughout the design. So I'm going to zoom in so you could see. And pardon my shadow, this room has a stained glass window behind me, and so I'm trying not to create a shadow over the print, but you could see how wonderful the design is. It's very intricate and complicated, but yet well balanced. It's basically a dance of light and shadow. Now, I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to pull out, if I can, another design. And this is a woodblock print. You're going to see a little bit of my shadow, unfortunately. I apologize for that. This is a woodblock print. This was done in 1947. You could see the artist's early signature. He signed his first name Jun'ichiro Sekino, but it's actually later he used a J as opposed to a Z, but that is indicative of a very early signature, 1947. In 1947, Sekino was not yet a professional artist, and so he was certainly making prints. He was working with Onchi, and he was an active member of his circle of artists, and he was producing woodblock prints. He was also producing etchings, but in very low quantities. So this design is known in a handful of different impressions, and each impression is very different in the way that they're printed. I would say there's about maybe 3 to 5 impressions of this woodblock print, and they're all very special. They're very, very different. I'm going to zoom in so you could see this wonderful wood grain pattern that's in the background, and then just the way that the colors and the shapes are printed. And the subject is very, very similar to the etching. You could see in the way that the artist treats this design here, it's really a study of the subjects in how the light is filtering through the image. And in here, we have the same subject, but with a different medium. And of course, the woodblock printing medium enables you to produce a lot of different qualities. And so we get a sense of a study of light in here, but it's also a study of color, and then the way that the printing creates a wonderful surface on the design. It is a really complicated printing. It's very active. You could see the pigment and how it was blended in with the design. That shows Sekino's really wonderful self-printing techniques. He, like Onchi, was very expressive, but Sekino was much more of a careful printer, and you don't see things out of alignment, and you don't see that much ink splatter. Everything is where it should be, but it's also very expressive. So it's a really interesting comparison to show both of these designs side by side. I'll step back. There isn't a lot of room for me to be able to show. You could see my coffee table's not that large. And then I'm going to show one additional print. I'll have to move this woodblock print over just a tad. And this print was done in 1951. It's an abstract design, I think 51, circa 1950, about 48 to 1950. I used to think it was 48, but I actually think it's closer to 50. And it shows another floral design, still life, 2 flowers in a flower pot. And then he adds, this might be a lime, this might be a persimmon or some sort of, fruit. And it's a very, very active and thought-provoking design. We have it's so many patterns. It's a riot of patterns. We have the wood grain pattern here. We have sort of an experimental string pattern here where the artist places string on the block and prints the block, and the string repels the pigment where the entire block is printed black, where the string is white because of the string preventing the contact with the block onto the paper. You see that again here. And in the background, I think he used some sort of wallpaper or some type of cloth with this type of
sort of, I don't know if it's a textile or something, but it may have been wallpaper that had a texture to it and inked it and printed it in the background. So there is so much going on in this design. It's a fantastic print. As far as I know, this is a unique impression. There aren't any other impressions out there, and but it shows Sekino's interest in experimentation. At this time, it's certainly very much part of the spirit of the Sosaku movement, especially if you consider Onshi was its spiritual leader at the time, and Onshi's raison d'etre was basically experimentation and emotional expression. And in this design, the way that I read it, it's not so much emotional as it is intellectual, and it is about an exploration of different printing techniques to produce a very thought-provoking design. So I'm going to zoom in again so you could see. Now I'm going to see if I could possibly show all three. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but we'll see. I may have to move these around. I might be able to do it. So, to give you a sense of the coffee table is about maybe 3 feet long. So the prints are quite large. The design of this design, or the design of this design, the print here, the design is about the size of an Oban size print. Can I say the word size here anymore? But anyway, so it's about Oban in size, and then of course has very large margins. And these two prints are basically double Oban, maybe slightly larger, give or take. The other thing I want to point out that I think is interesting is that in this style of print, I also think Sekino was influenced by his etchings, and he liked the idea of capturing black and white, and you see black and white as a pronounced effect in a lot of these sort of experimental designs from the early 50s. And though this string shape isn't necessarily, it's not an etching, and it doesn't relate to etching in the strictest sense, it does remind me of in some of his other etchings, not necessarily in this one, where the line is very important. And so he's highlighting that, but he's using it as almost like a decorative background pattern. Yeah, I mean these three prints are very, very rare. For some of you who don't know Sekino, I encourage you to look him up and get a couple books and read up on his career. He had a very interesting career, particularly his early period prints are just fantastic. And if you're a fan of Onshi's work, you would really love his early period prints as well. In fact, I penned a catalog, an exhibition catalog. I think the catalog came out almost 10 years ago. And I have one available for sale on my website and my bookstore. So if you don't know about Sekino and his early period prints, I encourage you to look up the book, and I'm happy to sell you a copy. But at the end of the day, you could also find some of these images of his early period prints in museum websites and other sources. But there are two important catalogs. There's Jun'ichiro Sekino, the prints, which I do have available for sale. And then the exhibition catalog I penned is called Behind Paper Walls, The Early Works of Jun'ichiro Sekino. And that catalog, not to keep mentioning it, because though I did pen it, I will say it's one of the best catalogs that shows his early period prints.
I'd say that catalog easily shows 30 to 50 rarely seen, if not unique, impressions. So there you have it, 3 wonderful self-printed early florals by Jun'ichiro Sekino. I'm going to zoom in one last time so you could see the detail on all 3 of them. Oh, I should say one other thing that just occurred to me. Some of these early prints do not have margins. So let me just show you. That is the design is the end of the print. And some collectors have commented to me, oh, it's trimmed. And the right response is no. Well, technically it is because the artist had a kento, so he trimmed the kento. But in this early period, a lot of Sasakuhanga artists printed their designs to the edge of the paper. So much so that I've toyed with creating an exhibition called No Margins and showing all of these different Sasakuhanga prints that lack margins. So so I just wanted to throw that out there, that you would have to know the particular design and when it was printed to know whether the lack of the margins was a condition problem or appropriate for the type of impression. And in this case, this is absolutely right as rain. If we were looking at a design produced by his studio in the late 50s, early 60s, they all have margins, and that would be a problem if an impression didn't have a margin. So, just wanted to point that out. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining me on Woodblock Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed our latest installment on some early period prints by Jun'ichiro Sekino, the Sasakuhanga artist. And if you have any questions about these prints, feel free to direct message me or put any comment or question below, and I'd be happy to address all of your questions. And I've gotten some really good topics for the near future that people have wanted me to discuss, and I really appreciate your feedback. And if there are topics you want me to treat in one of the upcoming Woodblock Wednesday videos, I will be happy to hear what you have to say, and if it works out, I will incorporate it. So there's quite a few topics I've been given recently, and I will certainly incorporate those in the near future. So feel free to do that. And of course, if you haven't seen my other videos, they're all archived on my website, collectingjapaneseprints.com. You click on the Woodblock Wednesday link and you'll be able to see all of them, and which is, I think, nearly 50, if not 50 separate episodes. So there's a lot there. And of course, if you haven't had a chance to check out my website, I invite you to have a look. Again, it's collectingjapaneseprints.com. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next week for another installment of Woodblock Wednesday. Until then, thank you.